Welcome to the 2023 First Selectman Candidate Forum. My name is Chris Wilson. I'm the chair of the New Canaan Republican Town Committee and the moderator for tonight's Candidate Forum. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Can everybody rise? I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The forum is being held on Tuesday, July 8th, 2023 at the Carriage Barn in beautiful Waveney Park. We have a live audience of New Canaan Republicans on hand to see our First Selectman candidates, one of 3 contested offices at this year's Republican caucus. We will hold separate candidate forums for the Town Council candidates later tonight and for the Board of Education candidates on Friday, June 21st, this Friday, from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. The Board of Education candidate forum will be an in-person event only, open to New Canaan Republicans and held in the Town Hall meeting room. Before we get started, I wanted to provide a reminder about our New Canaan Republican caucus. It will be held on Tuesday, July 25th, 1 week from today, at Sachs Middle School. The caucus is an in-person event only. There will be no absentee voting allowed. Doors will open at 6. The caucus meeting starts at 6:30 in the auditorium at Sachs. And as part of the caucus meeting, each of our candidates in a contested race will have a 5-minute speech in favor of their nomination. The caucus is open to registered New Canaan Republicans only. If you'd like to vote without taking part in the caucus meeting, please arrive after 6:45. And you can go directly to the gym where the voting happens. Voting closes at 9 p.m. sharp. If you have any questions, please go to our website, newcanaanrepublicans.org. You'll find the caucus rules, as well as a detailed guide called 6 Things to Know About the 2023 Republican Caucus. Final point worth highlighting, the New Canaan RTC has sole responsibility for running the caucus. We take our responsibility to run an open, fair, and unbiased process very seriously. The RTC does not endorse any candidates in the caucus. There are no hand-picked candidates on the Republican side. It might be a messy process, but it's proven over the years to be a very effective way to select candidates that can win in November. The candidate forums have also been organized by the New Canaan RTC with questions for the First Selectman candidates prepared by a small group within the RTC with a view of maintaining security around them. None of these questions have been shared with any of the candidates or campaigns in advance. The New Canaan RTC thanks all of the candidates across the board for putting themselves forward to run for office. This is a challenging process, and we appreciate the dedication and sense of civic responsibility that it takes to run for office. Please give all of our Republican candidates a big round of applause. Now to introduce the candidates at the top of our ticket, our First Selectman candidates. They are, in alphabetical order, Dionna Carlson, Kevin Moynihan, and Kimberly Norton. Let me remind the candidates how this forum will work. We'll start with 5-minute opening speeches from each of the candidates. The order of the opening speeches was determined by lots drawn ahead of time, and it will be Dionna, then Kevin, then Kim. After the opening speeches, we're going to have 5 regular questions and 1 short answer question. The first question will go to Kevin, and we will rotate through in the same order as we go. The regular questions, you'll have up to 3 minutes to answer and up to 30 seconds to answer the short answer question. You do not have to take all of your allotted time. After all the candidates have had a chance to answer the regular questions, there will be a rebuttal period. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to issue a rebuttal or further comment on the question using the same order as we asked the question. Candidates can decline the 60-second rebuttal if they do not wish to add any comments by saying, "I decline my time." At the end, candidates will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. This will be at the end of the question and answer session, and the order of the closing statements will be the opposite of the order of the opening statements. John Kriz will keep time. He will raise his hand to indicate that there's 15 seconds left, and the bell will sound when your time is up. Now for the 5-minute opening statements. Up first, Dionna Carlson.
So I'd like to thank the RTC for hosting tonight's candidate forum and for Chris Wilson for acting as tonight's moderator. I'm running for First Selectman for New Canaan because I love this town. I've been a member of this community for almost 28 years, and I've raised my family here. My children benefited from our amazing public schools, and my husband, David, and I feel blessed to be a part of this community. I also think it's important to know that I was asked to run by many members of the current Republican leadership in this community, and a number of you who are here tonight. I believe that they see what I see, in that I'm the right person at the right time with the right skills to move New Canaan forward in a more strategic way while restoring transparency, civility, and teamwork to the office of First Selectman. I know these words can sometimes sound squishy or soft, but I actually believe it's these softer skills that I bring to the table that are what are necessary to bring New Canaan, keep New Canaan the special place we all know it is. We need a First Selectman who listens, really listens to constituents. We are unbelievably blessed to have remarkably talented residents in this community, and as First Selectman, I would harness those talents for the benefit of the entire community. I'd like to tell you a little bit about my service to this town. I was elected to the Board of Education for 8 years and served as its chair for 3 of those years. In that time, I oversaw over 2/3 of the town's budget, participated in teacher contract negotiations, bus contract negotiations. The schools were the first group to bring solar into the town, and I was part of the board that brought that in. I also served on the superintendent and the manager of finance and operations selection committee, and I was part of the group that helped negotiate the teachers' contract that moved the entire teachers union over to a high deductible health insurance plan. I'm currently serving as a senior deacon at the Congregational Church of New Canaan and as a vice regent for the Hannah Benedict Carter chapter of the DAR. I've been on the boards of numerous non-for-profits in this community, and you can read about those on my website. Needless to say, I've been very engaged in this community over the 28 years I've been here. I graduated from the University of Illinois with a BS in finance with high honors, and after graduation, I was recruited into the GE Capital Financial Management program. And after graduation from that program, I held a number of financial services roles within commercial real estate, small business lending, and commercial lending. I earned my CFA designation and was a charter holder between 1999 and 2009. And I also worked as an assistant portfolio manager and securities analyst at a boutique investment firm in New York City. For a better future, New Canaan needs a leader who not only stewards our resources for those living here, but also serves as an ambassador to our state, someone who will amplify the message about our town's efforts on issues like affordable housing. My vision for New Canaan is to preserve the historic charm we all know and love, maintain our excellent schools, which not only create good citizens and future leaders, but also protects our property values, while supporting those services in town like public safety and public works that make this a great place to live, work, raise a family, and retire. If given the opportunity to be your First Selectman, my priorities would be the following. First, fiscal responsibility. I'm committed to supporting the Board of Finance strategy of keeping bonded indebtedness at a manageable level, our AAA credit rating, and a low mill rate. I will also collaborate with town departments and boards and committees to help identify cost-saving opportunities. Second, finding affordable housing solutions that work for New Canaan. This means partnering with other municipalities and CT 169 strong to advocate for better solutions from Hartford, all while creating housing locally that we develop and control. As First Selectman, I would prioritize working with the newly created Affordable Housing Committee to identify opportunities to mindfully develop affordable housing instead of having to respond to predatory developer projects. Affordable housing will be a priority. And third, community engagement and collaboration. The community should be updated regularly on what's happening locally. We shouldn't have situations like the West School cell tower where residents are kept in the dark about process and developments, leading to frustration and suspicion. I'm thrilled that the Utilities Commission has been reconstituted and is part of a diverse group of residents. And I do not support cell towers at schools.
And now Kevin Moynihan.
Good evening, fellow Republicans. It is an honor to speak to you tonight. Thank you, Chris and John, and the entire RTC for sponsoring tonight's Candidates Forum. My wife, Mim, and I have lived in New Canaan for 42 years. We raised our 2 children here. For 35 years, I had a very successful and satisfying career as a corporate attorney, working in Chicago and New York City for global investment banks. When I retired, I became a volunteer with several nonprofit organizations in New Canaan, such as the boards of the New Canaan Community Foundation and Get About, and on the RTC as both treasurer and vice chairman. I never aspired to be First Selectman. I am not a politician. It was because of my frustration with the progress of the Malasey administration with improving cell service and with natural gas that I decided to run for First Selectman in 2017. I am very proud of all that we accomplished in the last 5.5 years. Our accomplishments are significant and indisputable. The following are just a few of our major accomplishments. We led the town through the pandemic better than most any town or city in Connecticut. We've had 6 years of below inflation budgets while reducing town debt significantly. We brought natural gas to town, which will save taxpayers and many residents millions of dollars in future energy costs. We improved cell service in the northern part of town, and we've continued to work to expand reliable 21st century cell service to all parts of town. We supported a beautiful new $40 million New Canaan library with grants and parking. We acquired a permanent home for the Board of Education administrative offices by purchasing the first floor of the 220 Elm office building that will save taxpayers money for years to come. We made New Canaan more sustainable with solar panels on all schools and several town buildings, as well as CHP plants at town and school buildings. We made New Canaan healthier by funding an innovative telehealth program at Waveney Life Care Network and the Urgent Assessment Program at Silver Hill Hospital. We established annual matching funding for our public-private partnerships with Waveney Park Conservancy to enhance and beautify Waveney Park, and with the New Canaan Athletic Foundation to enhance the Dunning Stadium and other athletic facilities. We supported a creative plan to renovate and reopen our 100-year-old Playhouse movie theater. We championed historic preservation and open space to cherish New Canaan values. All of these accomplishments required creativity, perseverance, collaboration, and skill. These are qualities of leadership and management that you learn over a lifetime, not on the job or in just a few years. It is these qualities that I feel most differentiate me from my 2 opponents and that make me the most qualified to serve as First Selectman for the next 2 years. What has become clear to me is that the First Selectman's job demands far more than political skills. And perhaps little known to my opponents and by the voters, the First Selectman's job today is a very complex, all-demanding position requiring managerial, financial, social, administrative, and infrastructure responsibilities. It has grown into a very demanding combined CEO and CAO position, requiring extensive knowledge, professional experience, and management skills. We don't have a professional town administrator like Darien and Wilton have, so the burden and responsibility of all these tasks rests with the First Selectman in New Canaan. This is the job I've been doing for the last 5.5 years, and I believe I've been doing the job extremely well. I am running for re-election because I have unfinished work to do. First, the matter of further improving cell service for residents in parts of town that have poor to non-existing cell service. I've been working on this problem for the last 10 years, and I look forward to collaborating with the newly constituted Utilities Commission to find the right solutions for New Canaan. My 2 opponents have taken town property off the table when the prior administration selected Homeland Towers as the town's partner to add cellular infrastructure on town-owned properties in the absence of any other alternatives. Verizon and AT&T both wanted to establish reliable cell service throughout town so that the remarkable benefits of smartphones and the 5G evolution of cell service come to all New Canaan residents and visitors. It will be tragic for New Canaan's competitive future if we don't reach the right conclusions on this front in the next 2 years. Second, the matter of 3 affordable housing proposals that our P&Z Commission has rejected as unsuitable for their locations in relation to our 830G obligations that the town continue to make progress in expanding our inventory of affordable housing. New Canaan has done an exemplary job of Millport and New Canaan Parish in developing 100% publicly funded permanently qualifying units. As a seasoned retired attorney, I am the best qualified candidate to lead the town to a resolution of these inappropriate oversized development proposals.
Thank you. And now Kim.
I was told I can get up, is that correct?
You can.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Good evening. I want to thank the RTC, especially Chris Wilson and Jonathan Chen for organizing this forum. I'd also like to thank the Carriage Barn Art Center for hosting and Channel 79 for making a recording available to the public and you for coming this evening. My name is Kimberly Norton and I'm running for First Selectman of New Canaan. I view this forum as the beginning of transparency for my administration. I asked the RTC to please videotape this debate so it is available to all residents, and they enthusiastically agreed. We haven't had a healthy debate on the state of our town for years. The incumbent, Mr. Moynihan, won a contested caucus in 2017 with 10 votes and was uncontested in 2019 and 2021. This forum gives us a chance to talk and be transparent about the state of our town and to see why I am the best Republican candidate for the job. Transparency is something I fight for every day as a town council member and have for over a decade in my public advocacy roles. As your next First Selectman, I will put you at the center of my public service to our town. Not a small group of buddies, government leaders, big business, or private developers. I will be a selectman of and for the people who live in New Canaan, one of the best places to live, work, and raise a family. I'd like to share now a little bit about my involvement with our wonderful Republican Party and the RTC. Even though I've lived in town for 15 years, I was an unknown political candidate in 2021. When I decided to run for town council, I was told to speak to the RTC chairman, who was open and supportive of my candidacy and remarked on my stellar voting record. I was relieved and pleasantly surprised at how welcoming and open the party was to newbies like me. I won a town council seat that year in a contested Republican caucus and was the highest vote getter for new candidates in the general election. However, on our party's way to the general election in 2021, I saw struggles of my fellow New Canaan Republicans in more heated races. I responded by convincing the former RTC chair to open a Republican headquarters in town. He was reluctant at first, but eventually I won him over and we were off. Me managing things, including a budget and up to 40 Republican volunteers per week. We now had a home, a heart, and a place to get out the vote. And that success played out at the polls with our Republican team winning in the general election. In 2022, I was asked by a senior RTC member to open and run headquarters again, and I responded again by saying yes. My service to the Republican Party, from promoting our slate of candidates to my plan to support Republicans to assume leaderships of boards and commissions, is something I am very dedicated to. This commitment is in stark contrast to my opponent, who passed over qualified Republican to be BOE chair in 2018. I will not bypass qualified Republicans for leadership roles. Over a year ago, I was asked by RTC leaders and leaders of this town to run for First Selectman. But guess what? I was also asked to run by many of you here tonight. Why should you vote for me as your next First Selectman? I care and I understand residents. One of my favorite parts of running a campaign are the door knocks, the conversations at the transfer station or Dunkin' at 7 a.m., or the resident who walks into my headquarters asking, "What's a caucus?" In order to best represent New Canaan, I will listen and I will understand you first, which is why I plan to put you, the residents, at the center and forefront of all my decision, which is not the status quo. In fact, our incumbent and his endorsers say everything is great in New Canaan. We don't have any problems. While I love living here, I disagree. We are at a pivotal turning point, and we need a strong, smart, energetic, and responsive leader to guide us through demands from Hartford, a changing technology landscape, and an economy where going to the grocery store hurts your wallet. My top priorities for my administration are: we need a better affordable housing strategy. No one talks to residents about the 3 pending projects, affordable housing projects now, and there's a vacuum of information. We have no articulated plan. That's got to change. I want to be a bipartisan role model forming Team New Canaan by inviting all 5 of our state representatives to my town hall office and forming this team. It's what we're best at, teamwork. 2, we need to stop being scared into thinking we need cell towers to fix cell coverage gaps. We do have cell service issues for sure, but there are new technologies like satellite and DAS that can be used to give us better service. 3, we need to lower our taxes, lower our mill rate, stop borrowing and bonding so much. We are one of the top 3 in the state with the highest debt per capita ratios. And 4, support our wonderful schools with an eye to funding state-of-the-art school safety measures, equipment, and protocols. Now, let's get to it, Mr. Chairman. I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you. And now to our regular questions. As a reminder, you have 3 minutes to respond and then 60 seconds for a rebuttal. We're going to start with Kevin, and we're going to repeat the order for the rebuttals. So question number 1. The First Selectman has a number of roles, including acting as the chair of the Board of Selectmen. What is your view on how the Board of Selectmen has operated in the recent past, and what can you do to make it function better going forward?
Well, the Board of Selectmen is a 3-member body that is required to do several things. It's the procurement agent, so all contracts over $10,000 go to the Board of Selectmen. Contracts otherwise, generally. But the First Selectman is the CEO of the town, and under the charter, the Chief Administrative Officer of the town. So unlike a mayor who doesn't have any partners to work with, a town like New Canaan has a Board of Selectmen. There has been friction on the Board of Selectmen in the past year or 2 years, mainly because of my colleague, Nick Williams. And I don't want to get into the details of that. Many people know, but that hasn't, I think in the history of New Canaan, there hasn't been a situation where the second selectman has been so unsupportive of the first selectman. So I think that's the primary reason we've had conflict. Another reason we had some conflict is because Selectman Kathleen Corbett joined with Democrats to file an ethics complaint against me after the day before the election in 2019 with respect to an endorsement letter I did with the for our Republican Board of Ed candidates. That was a totally bogus complaint. It took me 5 months to get it resolved, and it cost me $7,600 in personal funds to do it. That's not colleague worthy from Ms. Corbett. So that's my views on the role of the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you. Kim?
Yeah, well, I'm sorry you had to go through that experience, Kevin. I like the way we have 3 selectmen in town, and I think if people are getting along, I think it works well. One of the things I would like to see perhaps change is expenses under $10,000 are not publicly or widely made available for the public to see if they want to, see what we're spending money on. And sometimes those numbers can add up to hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, for instance, there was a study that was recommended for the cell service coverage that came in, I think, at about 9,999. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was 995. But the point is we want the public to be able to see what is going on with those expenses under $10,000, and have it readily available for people to be able to read on the website, be able to look up, and people are really interested. If they get to see the information, they might be able to help out and give their opinion on some things. So as I said, I'm for greater transparency, so that would be one addition that I have, but I think if people are getting along, and I think I'm a team player, I have great relationships with all my friends on town council, including both sides of the aisle, I think I'm ready to go.
Okay, Dionna?
So I think one of the major reasons I'm running is because I think we have some dysfunction at the First Selectman level at this town, and I think the skills that I bring to the table will help bring some order and better management to the role of the First Selectman. I think when you lead a team, it's all about bringing people in, making them feel like they're heard and that their concerns are validated. And it's not okay to have a selectman need to, put a FOIA request to get information that should be readily available to any quite frankly, any member of the public, but as a colleague, you should be able to get employee lists and things like that without having to make a FOIA request. That's just not okay. So I think, there's just a lot of dysfunction right now, and I think, we need a fresh start. We need a new slate, and we need, more transparency and a lot more civility and teamwork at the selectman level.
And now, time for rebuttal. Kevin?
Well, my first response would be both Kathleen Corbett and Nick Williams are moving on, fortunately, so we won't have that conflict anymore. I would also say that with respect to all contracts under $10,000, they are reviewed every 2 weeks with the other selectmen and often questioned by the other selectmen, and they are available to the public. Everything is available to the public. But as far as collaboration, it's a two-way street. The issues that were raised were by them, and I responded.
Kimberly, would you like?
Yeah, I would say as a former soccer player, lacrosse player, pickleball player, and tennis player, I am a team player. So I have full confidence that I'll be able to get along with the new people elected to this Board of Selectmen.
And
Dionna?
I would just say, as a former board chair, I never had any of these issues. I think it's how you treat people. And, when you treat people well and you listen to them and you make them feel included, you don't have these issues.
Okay, we're on to our second question. This one will start with Kim. Connecticut's affordable housing mandate, known as 830G, remains a hot topic in town. How do we best address our affordable housing needs and get the town back into a moratorium?
Great question. So affordable housing is my top priority, and what I want to do to start this whole process is by putting you, the resident, at the center of our decision making. Right now, there's a vacuum of information. People are forming groups, if nonprofits and other ways to try to fight affordable housing, and we really shouldn't have to do that. We should be able to get communication and lead from our first selectmen and be able to all come to a consensus of how we want to meet this demand. Our moratorium lapsed. Frankly, I don't think we were prepared to file that moratorium, which I'm really concerned about. It's a very long process. It could have been ready to go. It could have been in the pipeline. As a member of town council, I did put forth some solutions to my leadership, and I think Kevin might have got them on the email. I don't know. But I had some strategies for maybe, lobbying our governor, and I found an arcane rule in the Office of Legislative Research that said that we might be able to put in some kind of an ordinance to stop building in certain parts of town. That really didn't get much traction. So as a member of town council, I've been on the forefront of forming the Affordable Housing Committee. I fought for more residents to be on that committee, 5 residents as opposed to 3, so residents have a larger voice. And one of the reasons I'm doing that is because I think we have so much talent in our community. I think we're going to make better decisions that way. So I will be clearly at the front runner for this. I feel very comfortable in Hartford. I got the student data privacy bill passed in Hartford, spent a lot of time there, and I think I want to be able to have Team New Canaan, our 5 representatives, 3 Democrats and 2 Republicans in my office forming Team New Canaan, communicating with the resident and making sure that everyone's on the same page of how we want to move forward. We've got to get our moratorium back, and we've got to do it as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Okay, next up, Dionna.
Thank you. I agree with Kim. Affordable housing is the single biggest issue beyond, some of the cell tower issues facing this community right now. And I mentioned it in my opening statement because it is that important. I appreciate the Team New Canaan concept, but when you really look at this issue realistically, New Canaan cannot go alone on this issue. We have to get other municipalities on our side, working in coordination with CT 169 Strong, which is an advocacy and lobbying group that is pushing back on Hartford to fight against the worst in affordable housing legislation from Hartford. And we need to work with Democrat-run towns and this organization to help get the 830G legislation modified. We're never going to get it overturned, but if we can modify it and make it more palatable to towns like ours, and there are a lot of towns like ours that are suffering under this legislation, I think we'll have better outcomes. I also think we need to look at developing properties locally that we control. When we control it, it's 100% affordable and it's permanently affordable. When a predatory developer develops an affordable housing project, it's only affordable for 40 years and 30% of it is affordable, which creates a never-ending hamster wheel of needing more affordable housing, and we'll never make it. So we have to really go after developing locally and identifying projects. And we need to work with our legislators better to make them understand why we deserve the moratorium. And that's really working, having a longer term relationship. You can't show up when you're upset about something and fight. You have to establish relationships and nurture them. So that's what I would do if I was elected for selectman.
Okay, Kevin?
So, as I mentioned before, New Canaan has had an exemplary record of building affordable housing, the 100% forever qualified units that we've done at Millport, and Canaan Parish. That strategy was adopted before I became First Selectman, and it was a good strategy. We had the governor down here to celebrate the opening of Millport, Governor Malloy. The problem, we were defeated by COVID in terms of our moratorium. COVID delayed getting funding for Canaan Parish, and COVID delayed getting gas into the building. We couldn't get a CO until October of 2021. But the reality is, we really don't need a moratorium in New Canaan. We qualify for a moratorium right now if we want to go get it. We can't work by the rules of the state when they change the rules midstream. What the state did to us when we applied for a moratorium is said, oh, you didn't realize you have to build precisely 60 units in a 4-year period, and if you build more, you're not going to get any credit. That's a crazy policy. We believe our lawyers believe it's wrong. I believe it's wrong. They basically want to take 40 brand new units and say, you can't get any credit for those. $20 million of investment in 40 units, trashed. So we can't play by rules of a state that doesn't play square and fair. And we're going to, now with respect to the CARP developments, I told Arnold publicly when the first project was announced, this is a dumb strategy. And then when he brings 3 at the same time, it's a really dumb strategy. He doesn't want to build what he's proposing, and he won't build what he's proposing. The reality is we're kind of lucky we have a guy like Arnold Karp rather than a predatory developer from outside of town bringing this issue to us. This is our first time at the rodeo. Darien had developers. They paid off over several times. So we're in good shape. This is not the earth-shaking issue. We will never get Hartford to change their policy. That's a fool's errand. Thank you.
All right, rebuttal period, 60 seconds.
I didn't get a chance.
Kim.
Oh, sorry. So I do believe in Team New Canaan because I do think it's going to be very hard to change 830G, but we already have relationships set up in Hartford. That's why we elect local representatives and local senators. So I don't think we need to recreate the wheel. So I have full confidence that I don't think those 5 representatives have been in your office, have they? All together forming Team New Canaan. Secondly, I think it's great to go to other communities and find out best practices, but regionalism is a slippery slope. And I'm here to protect New Canaan. So 169 strong, I have the utmost respect for everything that they've done, but we're 1 out of 169 towns. So I'm here to protect New Canaan. I want to do everything I can for the town. And even though our points, as you said, have not been counted the way we would like them to, that doesn't mean that we stop moving forward. That doesn't mean that we stop developing a plan. That doesn't mean we stop communicating with residents. So I see a huge void. I would like to, like I said, get all the representatives in our office and see what we can do, but not just for affordable housing, for all other issues that we face. Thank you.
Okay, Dionna, rebuttal.
So I never think developing relationships is a fool's errand. I think you never know what you can move the needle on until you try. And I've found that when people feel connected, you often can change behavior. So I actually disagree with the fool's errand comment. And I also think we need to be responsive to, sort of the needs of our staff who felt overworked, and we missed a moratorium because we missed a deadline. And so, we're in the situation we're in because we missed a second moratorium. But I do agree with you, COVID put a huge monkey wrench in, the development. So I absolutely agree that hurt our affordable housing in town.
Okay, Kevin?
I have no further comment.
Okay, we're on to the third question. We're going to start with Dionna. The proposed West School cell tower generated significant opposition. How do we address the need for cell service for public safety and communication while balancing the concerns of neighbors and parents about living near or going to school near cell towers.
Okay, so as I mentioned in my opening statement, I am not in favor of the development of the cell tower at West School. That single proposal was thrown out over 5 years ago, was roundly criticized by residents and parents, and it is, to me, an unbelievably bad waste of time, money, and effort to bring back the same proposal 6 years later. I do believe that there are alternatives. DOS is one, the distributed antenna services, microcells. Satellite is too expensive right now, but with the way technology moves, everything will improve over time. And so, if you wait a little bit of time, the pricing on that may come down. From a public safety standpoint, I'm not as concerned. All the elementary schools have antenna systems now that are connected. So if there's an emergency at West School or in the West School area, they can connect to our emergency service providers. I was on the Board of Education when those antennas were put up and redone. So I am not as concerned from a safety standpoint. But we do need to find solutions because more people are working from home and they need access to their wireless services. So, but it needs to be a transparent process. You can't, as I said in my open statement, you cannot have a proposal that's vetted behind closed doors and is going to be impacting residents and expect it to be accepted by this community. You have to bring it forward, let everybody look at what's happening and comment on it in daylight.
Okay, Kevin?
I said before I was frustrated with the Malatya administration's pace of trying to solve the cell service problem, but the reality was they created a framework that the carriers understood that we would follow. In the past 5.5 years, Keith Ritchie got a cell tower built on private property, which now his neighbors are accepting. St. Louis School is happy that it's there. It's 250 feet from the school. I worked hard to get a public safety cell tower in the northwest corner of town because in that corner of town, our police and firemen, when they step out of their vehicle, they don't have radio service. We have a temporary antenna that we need to find a permanent solution. So I worked hard on that to get that approved, and it was approved last December to have that tower. When it came to the west side of town, the plan that was adopted by the Malatya administration in the summer of 2016 called for, if no other location was available, the 47 acres that the town owns on the west side of town, the first 6 of which is West School, was the location that would be put forth by the carriers. The proposal in 2017 by Tom Teslick and the Utilities Commission was 450 feet from the school. The proposal that I brought forth, asking Verizon to push back as far as they could, is 900 feet from the school. If people don't understand there's no health risk with 900 feet from the school, we're never going to solve the problem in New Canaan. And by the way, AT&T and Verizon each want to spend $500,000 in addition to the $1.5 million Tolman Towers will build a tower in the middle of the woods. They don't invest that money if they don't think they need it. The reality is macro sites are still the backbone of cell service in America. All the macro sites are going to 5G antennas. We need to solve this problem, and people have to understand there is no health risk whatsoever with a cell tower 900 feet from a school, and you're in the middle of the woods where no one can see the tower. So I told the ethics board when another ethics charge was brought against me last March about I was favoring the interests of AT&T and Verizon over the town, which was immediately dismissed. But I told the ethics board it would have been unethical for me not to bring forward the proposal by Verizon in April of last year. I couldn't say, oh, you got an election coming up. I didn't think this would be controversial at all. 900 feet in the middle of the woods. I'm very surprised people think that this is a problem. We have to get our heads around this because if there's no other location on the west side of town, we will never solve the problem and we will be an inferior town compared to our neighbors.
Kimberly?
Yes. So I strongly disagree with that position. It's not only that a cell tower is 900 feet from a school. What about the neighbors that can see it out of their bedroom window, and what about their health? There's no definitive evidence that cell service is safe. And I'm the only candidate that said since day one of my announcement back in May that I will not put a cell tower on any school property, any public park, public land, and I won't go to your neighbor and ask to put up a cell tower. Cell towers are dinosaur technology. There's new technology coming out, or has out now. Satellite is not too expensive. You can put a Bluetooth accessory on your phone. I bought one yesterday at REI. Goes right on your phone, and it doesn't cost that much money, so you can make cell service calls. And I don't think that in terms of public safety, we are obviously concerned about our schools, but there's also public safety of people that are riding on the roads. Satellite technology can be used by those people. So public safety is a concern. I have driven around town, and there are cell gaps. But we need an objective study of where are those cell gaps. Respectfully, Kevin, the data that you have is from 2017. That is very old. Technology changes every 3 months, every day. So to base a decision that's upsetting residents on something from 2017, frankly, is unethical. And I really think that it's in our responsibility to vet research and technology, ask the right questions, and I fought to reinstate the Utilities Commission. And I also fought to put more residents on the Utility Commission. We have a NASA scientist that's on that commission. The more residents with more diverse backgrounds, more research, understanding, the greater and better solution we're gonna get for New Canaan. So I just want to reiterate that I think it's a false dichotomy to say public safety or cell tower. That's not what our choice is. We have a lot of other choices in the middle, and I think that we can find that balance for New Canaan. Thank you.
Okay, now it's our rebuttal time, 60 seconds, starting with Dionna.
So I understand that now if you have an iPhone 14, you have access to a satellite. So in an emergency, it will go directly to a satellite to place that call. So I think we need to get out of the emergency situation because I think technology is progressing to the point where this public safety issues are being addressed. This is an emotional issue. I don't think you're ever gonna get a bunch of parents of 5 to 8-year-olds getting comfortable with a cell tower. Right now, the American Cancer Society and the American Academy of Pediatrics has an undefined risk. And so, until that goes away, you're not going to get parents comfortable with it. So why are we wasting everyone's time? Sorry.
All right, Kevin.
We're wasting everyone's time because it's the most important issue we have in terms of solving a safety issue in New Canaan. West School is not a safe school without cell service around it. The only reason teachers and people can make a cell phone call is because of the Wi-Fi in the building. I defy anybody to tell me the difference between a Wi-Fi signal in the classroom and a cell tower 900 feet away. There is no difference. In France, they don't allow Wi-Fi in elementary schools. Let's take the Wi-Fi out of the elementary school. There will be no cell service around West School. I told the chief of police and I told the superintendent, without cell service at West School, we have a vulnerable school and we need cell service around that school.
Okay, Kimberly?
I am very upset to hear that statement because I think it's fear-mongering. Parents send their children to school and they should be 100% comfortable that their children are safe. The fire and the police and the EMS have downloaded floor prints of the schools and can respond in all different ways, so I don't agree with that. But it's not just about schools. There's cell towers that were proposed in Irwin Park. There's a cell tower next to a family with 4 children up on Ponus Ridge. I don't think those people are very happy. Why should we be doing that to people when there's other solutions? So it's our responsibility as leaders, and it will be my goal and responsibility as First Selectman to find a solution that doesn't pit neighbor against neighbor, that does not upset parents, and does not upset residents who live near the proposed tower at the bottom of the 75 acres near West School.
Okay, we're on to question number 4. New Canaan's a small town where most people agree on the main priorities regardless of party affiliation, and Republicans and Democrats serve together on all the town boards and commissions. As potential First Selectman, what would you bring to the table in terms of ability to work closely with your fellow public officials? Kevin.
I didn't understand the last part of the question. What would I do?
What would you do to try and work together across party with other officials? Town council, first Board of Selectmen, Board of Ed.
Well, I think for the most part, our boards work very well together. The Board of Finance, I think they can't distinguish who's a Republican, who's a Democrat. So I don't know the premise of the question, that we have a problem here that needs to be solved. I've appointed more unaffiliated voters to boards and commissions than any First Selectman in history. And I think we need to do more of that. But there is the Democrats want their share and the Republicans want their share. That's our historical legacy of a two-party system. But again, there are no Republican or Democratic ways to solve problems in town.
Okay. Kim?
Yeah, I have a great relationship with everyone on town council. The Ginsburg-Scalia relationship kind of characterizes it. Sometimes we don't agree with things when we're discussing things, policy issues or different issues in town, but off the court or off the dais, we're besties. So I don't think that there is an issue, and I think that one of the things I'd like to see is maybe open houses on different boards and commissions to educate the public, to say, would you want to serve on Health and Human Services? Would you want to serve on the Conservation Commission? And get unaffiliated voters, which are a huge part of New Canaan right now, involved in the process, and help them to learn more about what the town does. So I think that it is a potential risk, Chris, but I do think that we're doing a good job with it, and I think we'll continue to have that track record of bipartisan cooperation.
Thank you. Dionna?
So for any of you who haven't read Hoyt Davidson's letter in the New Canaanite endorsing my candidacy, I urge you to read it because it addresses this issue. I think communication and collaboration and being respectful of all views is how you get people to work with you. And I have a long history of doing that, and I think, Democrat, Republican, it doesn't really matter. We're all working for the benefit of this community that we all love.
Okay, 60 seconds for rebuttal. Kevin?
I don't see how that answered the question. But
How would you get that?
again, we're answering a question that doesn't require a lot of discussion. I do think in some ways, we ought to try to get away from the two-party system and invite more unaffiliated people in. 40% of the population, the residents now are unaffiliated, but most of our surrounding towns and cities still go by the two-party system, and that's kind of what we're committed to. So, but I would be all in favor of trying to increase participation by others.
Okay, Kimberly?
Yeah, I see myself in the role of First Selectman. I'd like to be a role model for bipartisan cooperation and listening to all sides of an issue. I think that there are some divisive issues in our national scene, and to have a First Selectman that extends courtesy and warmth and friendliness to everyone, and no matter what your party is, that's the First Selectman I'm going to be. Thank you.
Okay, Dionna?
I have nothing else to add.
Okay, question number 5. The RTC's open nomination process has attracted 3 highly qualified candidates for the job of First Selectman. What makes you the best candidate for the job? Starting with Kim.
Well, I guess I would say right now I'm sitting on the forefront of all major issues facing the town on town council. I've been there with the affordable housing ordinance, forming that to add more residents to that so they have a greater voice. I've also been on the forefront of fighting for the Utilities Commission to be reinstated and adding more residents to that. I am co-chair of Health and Human Services, so I have a deep understanding of health issues that face our town, including what we experienced during COVID. I think that I have a priority of placing you, the resident, at the center of all my decision-making, which I think unfortunately has been lost in the past 6 years. I see the role of First Selectman as a public servant, and I would like to pay attention to small issues and things that might not be discussed in this forum, not strategy issues, but maybe an issue that one resident has. So I want to be focused on the big picture, the strategy issue, and the small issue. And again, I think I understand the residents. So I'm in and of this town. I'm not retired. My husband works. I work. I've got 2 kids in the public schools. I have 2 kids that graduated from the public schools. I'm a volunteer in the schools. I work in the school library and have for 9 years as a volunteer. And I said to them recently, if I make it as First Selectman, if you'll have me, I'd like to be back behind the desk. Why? Because I love it. I love talking to the students, and I love learning all about education. So I think that my experience in the town uniquely qualifies me to be fully involved, to be able to understand you, and in order to understand you, then I can respond to whatever the issues are in the most effective way possible. Thank you.
Okay, next, Dionna.
So I think I'm the best candidate because I have a long history of community engagement and leadership. I have a demonstrated history of leading leaders, and it's not always an easy thing to do for those of you who've done it. But I do it by valuing and respecting all members and listening to all points of view. The role of the First Selectman involves communicating, compromising, and convincing. All three of these are critical, and all three of these I have done over and over again as chairs of boards. A leader has to know his or her limitations. They need to know when to draw on the expertise of others. I think, the humble servant is a really good phrase to use when you talk about any public service position. We all need to be willing to say, I need help, I need an expert to come in and tell me what I need to know about this issue. And I'll stay right now. I'm not gonna know everything about everything day one, but I know lots of people that will help me, and I will reach out to them to help make the role of First Selectman the most effective that it can be. And I also think my financial services background and the fact that I actually did affordable housing development as in my commercial real estate role within GE Capital is a huge bonus at this critical time in our town's history. So I know what those deals do. I know how those transactions work. I understand reading legal documents. I mean, I'm not a lawyer like Kevin, but I had to read a whole lot of legal documents doing transactions. So I'm very comfortable with that. It's not something that's foreign to me. And then I lead by doing. I'm not the person that's afraid to roll up her sleeves and, get in there and do the hard work and the heavy lifting. And I think that's what people want to see in their leader. They want to see somebody willing to get in there and do the hard work.
Thank you. Kevin?
I think I'm most qualified because I've been doing it for 5.5 years, and I've accomplished some amazing results, only because I took on challenges that people said couldn't be done, and we got them done. It took me 9 months to acquire the 220 Elm Street and make it condominiumize the building. We're working on a transaction since there's no press here. We've reached a deal to acquire the Gulf Station and get the Gulf Station out next to the library. That was a transaction that people said couldn't be done, and we have a deal to get it done. So the job of First Selectman is a tough job because you make decisions, and somewhere along the line, people are going to not be happy with your decisions. As Joe Rucci, who served on the town council for over a decade, said, every decision you make more enemies. So I've made some enemies in the past 5.5 years. The cell tower folks, I'm kind of surprised because I never expected 900 feet from a school to be controversial. Tom Teslick, an independent Utilities Commission chairman, brought forth a 450-foot proposal, and that was an acceptable proposal. The P&Z Commission last fall independently voted unanimously to approve that location. John Goodwin, a Democrat, walked the property. He said, this is a good location. So I was totally surprised by people being concerned about a health risk being 900 feet from the school. We can't have voodoo science. New Canaan is a smart town. We can't have hope for future technologies that are not arriving for decades. And by the way, I go back to the acid test is, when you have Verizon and AT&T, this is a remarkable device called a smartphone. It doesn't work without a cell signal. 5G is coming, and we need macro sites to give us the best cell service we can in town. That's an unpopular issue among some, but I think there's far more people that don't have cell service in town or reliable cell service that get the issue, and they need to vote for me to solve the cell service. I sound like a one-note pony, but the reality is I don't consider affordable housing nearly as dangerous to our residents and our first responders as not having good cell service.
Okay, now 60-second rebuttals. Kimberly?
If I'm not mistaken, the question was about leadership.
What makes you the best candidate for the job?
Right. So I'm going to just respond to Kevin's information about technology. The technology is here, Kevin. And if it's there and residents don't want it, then to me, a leader needs to be flexible, and they need to see their role as in service of the electorate, not the other way around. In terms of Deanna's comments, I'm all for seeking information and consulting with people, but I'm also ready to make the hard decisions because all of the committees, the Affordable Housing Committee, the Utilities Commission, they're all advisory to the First Selectman. When I worked for the NYPD, I was making life and death decisions for public safety every day, sometimes in the middle of the night. I'm going to be able to do that for New Canaan, and I'm not afraid to make those tough decisions, but I will consult with other people. But ultimately, the First Selectman has to be the expert at the end because they're representing you. Thank you.
Okay, Dionna?
So I think this conversation is actually highlighting the stark contrast in my leadership style and the leadership style of my opponents. The cell tower issue is a prime example of not bringing people together and discussing things in the open forum of a utilities commission that used to be, existed, and then it was disbanded under the Moynihan administration, and thank goodness it's been reconstituted and is working again, because I think we will find solutions when we work together and we move the process forward as a group with all the facts. I also would like to comment on the hard decisions. As a Board of Ed chair, I made a lot of hard decisions and things that weren't always popular.
Thank you. Kevin?
I go back to the issue that both Deanna and Kim have shut off consideration of town property for a very important public service of having effective, reliable cell service. That's breaching your obligation before you even take office. I took an oath to do the best for New Canaan. I firmly believe, having worked on this issue for 10 years, that Verizon and AT&T don't step up to invest money in town to put antennas if they don't need them. They're not stupid companies. So maybe I failed in terms of bringing this forth and educating the public. I thought we actually educated the public 10 years ago when the Utilities Commission was functioning, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, because the reality was Tom Teslick and the Utilities Commission got up and said, if you're concerned about the cell tower, be more concerned about this. Don't have this in your pocket. Don't have it in your home. If you think this is a problem, we vote every day and have this on our bodies. Let's get smart about the science of cell signals. Thank you.
Hi. So we're down to our final short answer question. If you do not win the caucus, will you support the winner? Let's start with Deanna. 30 seconds.
So I would agree to support my opponents if tonight they both agree to do the same.
Okay, Kevin.
Well, historically, we've never gone to primary. In other towns, the committee recommends candidates, nominates candidates, and then you can go to primary. This may be the first time in history we may need to go to primary. The problem with the caucus, and just by the turnout tonight, not many people are here in July. It's not the most representative process, and a primary in July would not be a bad process. But we'll make that decision after the results are known next Tuesday night.
I haven't felt
Kimberly?
that. Oh, sorry. I haven't felt that level of peer pressure, Deanna, since I was in high school. Thank you. I'm focused on winning the caucus. I'd like to be one and done, and that's all I'm thinking about at this time.
Okay, and now we have our closing statements. 2 minutes, each candidate, starting with Kevin.
It has been an honor and privilege to serve as your first selectman. We have a great town with great people, great schools, great nonprofits, and great volunteers. I have enjoyed leading our town for the last 5.5 years and accomplishing so much together. In my legal career, I learned to be a problem solver, someone who could find creative solutions to complex problems and achieve results. That experience and skill is key to my qualifications to being first selectman of our town. I believe that I am the best qualified person to lead our town for the next 2 years as we seek the right solutions for our need for reliable cell service throughout town and as we seek to resolve the challenges posed by the 3 affordable housing development proposals that are currently on appeal. If reelected, I pledge to you I will give you my best every day, my experience, knowledge, skills, dedication, and passion. With your help, we'll preserve and improve our town. We'll make New Canaan even better than we have known or dreamed it could be. I humbly ask each of you for your vote next Tuesday at the caucus so that I may continue to serve as your First Selectman for another 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Yes. In closing, I believe I'm ready to lead now, and my past has prepared me for this moment. I'm someone who has made life and death decisions as a forensic psychologist when I worked for the NYPD. As an experienced member of town council, I have reviewed our multi-million-dollar budgets and asked the tough questions to bring our spending down. Sitting on the council, I have been on the front lines of all major issues facing our town, like affordable housing and cell towers. As a former owner of a successful and profitable small business, I have 15 years of experience managing budgets and people. My public advocacy work, Slow Down in Our Town, my student data privacy bill that I passed with some people in the audience, and leading a chemical cleanup at my kids' school in New York City shows my commitment to our residents' safety, our school children, their parents, and keeping teachers and children safe. As a mother of 4 children, 2 of whom are New Canaan Public School students now, I understand education and parents' concerns. I want to assure you that I will restore trust in New Canaan's leadership, and I want residents to know that you have a seat at the table no matter what the issue is. I will support our Republican team running for office on boards and commissions. I will also nurture our bipartisan relationships with Democrat and unaffiliated voters, but I will not turn my back on qualified Republicans for leadership roles as Dionna Carlson has done. I will not block transparency into government proceedings as she has done during her tenure as BOE chair, leaving a legacy of pending FOIA complaints centered around blocking parental access to information. I will not push agenda items like cell towers on school parents like Kevin Moynihan. I will not make decisions without your welfare and safety at the forefront of my agenda. I will not allow cost overruns on important projects like the Playhouse under Kevin's watch. I will not waste time on old solutions and will not allow a few senior government officials, telecommunications companies, or private developers to tell me what to do. I will listen, care, advocate, and respond to you. You are the reason government exists, and I see it as my job to lead with that as top of mind. Please vote for me, Kimberly Norton, on July 25th at the Republican caucus.
Kim.
Thank you.
Now on to Dionna.
So again, I'd like to thank the RTC for hosting tonight's candidate forum, and Chris, thank you again for moderating. And you, the voters, for showing up today, and you have a stake in this outcome, and you've shown that you want to become more informed voters, so thank you very much for coming and listening to us. Tonight you've heard 3 different voices for the future of New Canaan. If you like my message and my priorities, my experience and my background, and believe as I do that the time has come for new leadership with a fresh, collaborative perspective, together we can forge an even brighter future for New Canaan, and I ask for your vote next Tuesday, July 25th. We can do better, New Canaan, and if elected as your next First Selectman, I promise with your help, we will do better.
Please give all of our First Selectman candidates a big round of applause. Okay, before we break up, hold on, Kevin. Please join us at the caucus next week. Once again, it's next Tuesday, July 25th, 6:30 p.m. Hold on a second, a little bit more. Please stop by the RTC booth at the sidewalk sale on this Saturday. We will have many candidates at the booth. Thank you to my RTC colleagues for helping me put this together. Thank you for coming. And the Town Council Forum, we're starting in a few minutes.